You know, I've been thinking a lot lately about that moment when you're standing in the security line at an American airport. You've got your shoes off, you're juggling your laptop, you're trying to remember if you left your water bottle in your bag, and there's that little voice in the back of your head wondering, am I about to be that person? The one who holds up the line because I forgot about the rule regarding toothpaste? We have all been there. But here is the thing that really gets me. Despite the fact that we go through this ritual every single time we fly, most of us are operating on a patchwork of half-remembered facts and outdated myths. We think we know the rules, but the reality of what the TSA allows and what they absolutely will not tolerate is far more nuanced, and frankly, far more interesting than the average traveler realizes. Before we dive headfirst into the labyrinth of liquids, electronics, and the mysterious case of the granola bar, I have to ask you something, and I really want you to think about this because your answer might surprise you. Here's the question. What is the single most ridiculous item you have ever seen someone try to bring through a TSA checkpoint? Or what is a rule that you personally think makes absolutely no sense at all? I'm genuinely curious about this, so take a second. Think about the strangest thing you have witnessed or the rule that drives you crazy, and drop it in the comments. Seriously, I read them, and I want to know what your airport horror stories or head-scratching moments are. Stick around, because by the time you finish this article, you are going to understand exactly why that person in front of you got pulled aside for their souvenir snow globe, and you might even realize that some of the things you thought were forbidden are actually perfectly fine to pack. Let's start with the basics, the stuff we all think we know, because this is where the confusion usually begins. We have all heard the mantra, 311, 3.4 ounces, 1 quart-sized bag, 1 bag per person. It is so drilled into our heads that we could recite it in our sleep. But have you ever stopped to consider why that specific number exists? It isn't just a random figure pulled from thin air. It actually dates back to a specific intelligence report about a plot to assemble explosives on an aircraft using liquid components. The 3.4-ounce limit, which is 100 milliliters for the rest of the world, was determined to be the maximum volume of liquid that could not be used to cause catastrophic damage to an aircraft. That is the logic anyway. But here is where the rubber meets the road. The rule is about the container, not the contents. If you have a bottle that is labeled as 5 ounces, even if it only has a drop of shampoo left at the bottom, that bottle is forbidden in your carry-on. The TSA officer cannot test the contents. They have to go by what the label says. This is the most common point of confusion I see. People argue, but it's almost empty. It doesn't matter. The container's size is the law. Now, let's talk about the exceptions to that rule, because once you know these, you can navigate the checkpoint like a pro. Medically necessary liquids, gels, and aerosols are exempt from the 311 rule. This includes things like liquid prescription medications, insulin, and even over-the-counter liquids like cough syrup. You do have to declare them at the checkpoint, and they will likely be subjected to additional screening, which might involve opening the bottles or swabbing them for explosives, but you are allowed to bring them in quantities larger than 3.4 ounces. The same goes for infant and child nourishment. If you are traveling with a baby or toddler, you can bring breast milk, formula, juice, and even liquid-filled teething rings in reasonable quantities. I've seen parents get incredibly anxious about this, pulling out bags and trying to decant formula into tiny bottles. You don't have to do that. Just take it out of your bag, tell the officer what it is, and let them do their job. They see it every single day. This brings us to the great food debate. What can you actually bring through security to eat on the plane? The rules here are a bit more intuitive than people think. Solid foods are generally fine. You can bring sandwiches, apples, whole fruits, though be aware of international agricultural restrictions on the other end, chips, cookies, and pretty much any solid snack item you can think of. The trouble starts when food becomes, well, spreadable. Things like peanut butter, hummus, yogurt, cream cheese, and jam fall under the liquid dart gel rule. So if you want to bring a tub of peanut butter, it has to be 3.4 ounces or less. However, and this is a trick that seasoned travelers use, you can bring a sandwich that is already made with peanut butter. The sandwich is a solid item. The peanut butter is contained within the bread. That is perfectly acceptable. It's a fine line, but it's an important distinction. Similarly, a frozen solid item, like a gel pack for a lunchbox, is fine as long as it is completely frozen when it goes through the X-ray. If it is partially melted or slushy, it is now a gel and subject to the rule. Moving on from food, let's tackle the behemoth of the checkpoint, Electronics. We know laptops have to come out of their bags, but why? It's not just to slow us down. Laptops and other large electronics are dense items that can obscure the X-ray image. By placing them in a bin by themselves without the distraction of cables and other clutter, the TSA officer gets a clean, unobstructed view of the device's internal components. They are looking for anything that has been tampered with or that doesn't belong. Now, the rules have evolved. In recent years, you might have noticed that some airports now allow you to leave your laptop in your bag if you have a TSA pre-check lane. That's because pre-check lanes use a different screening methodology and assume a lower level of risk. But if you are in the standard lane, out it comes. This also applies to anything larger than a cell phone, really. Tablets, e-readers, even large portable battery packs sometimes get flagged for a closer look. The battery pack is a big one, actually. Spare lithium-ion batteries, the kind you use to charge your phone, are strictly prohibited in checked baggage. They have to go in your carry-on. This is a fire safety issue. In the cargo hold, a fire from a lithium battery can be catastrophic and impossible to extinguish. In the cabin, the crew can deal with it. So, always pack your power banks in your carry-on. Here is a scenario that plays out every single day that people get wrong. You are carrying your jacket because it's cold outside, but once you are inside the terminal, you get hot. So you take it off and stuff it in your carry-on bag just before you put the bag on the conveyor belt. Do not do this. The X-ray is calibrated to see through the fabric of your bag and the items inside. When you add a dense, crumpled jacket at the last second, it creates a cluttered image. It looks like a lump of unknown material. This almost guarantees that your bag will be pulled for a physical search. The same goes for putting things in the outer pockets of your bag. Those pockets are like little X-ray black holes. The officer sees a shape, but it's isolated from the rest of the contents, and it just looks suspicious. The rule of thumb is simple. Empty your pockets completely, put everything in a jacket or coat, and send the jacket through the X-ray in a bin. It's much cleaner and faster for everyone. Now let's venture into the truly confusing territory. The things you think are weapons but aren't treated as such, and the things you think are harmless that will get you arrested. We all know guns and knives are bad. But what about a baseball bat? You might think that's just sports equipment, and you can bring it, but there is a catch. The TSA allows sports equipment like baseball bats, hockey sticks, pool cues, and ski poles in your checked baggage. But they are generally prohibited in carry-on luggage because they can be used as bludgeons. A souvenir miniature baseball bat, the kind you might buy at a stadium, is a gray area. If it's small enough, it might be allowed, but a full-size bat is a definite no-go in the cabin. The same logic applies to tools. A screwdriver smaller than 7 inches is technically allowed in your carry-on, but do you really want to try that argument with a TSA officer who is having a bad day? Probably not. It's safer to put any tool in your checked bag. Here's where it gets really specific. Remember the ice skate rule. For years, ice skates were a major point of contention. Are they dangerous? The blades could be a weapon. The TSA eventually clarified that ice skates are allowed in carry-on baggage. But here's the unspoken part of that rule. They have to be inspected. The officer will want to look at them, and if you have skate guards or soakers on the blades, you might be asked to remove them. So while it's allowed, it's almost guaranteed to get your bag pulled for a hand search, which takes time. So, is it allowed? Technically, yes. Is it smart? Probably not, unless you absolutely need them for a competition the second you land. What about self-defense items? This is a minefield. Pepper spray is a big one. You are allowed to pack one small canister of pepper spray in your checked baggage, provided it has a safety cover to prevent accidental discharge. But it is absolutely prohibited in carry-on luggage. If you forget it in your purse or backpack, you're going to have a bad time. It will be confiscated, and you might even face a fine or local law enforcement action, depending on the state where the airport is located. The same goes for brass knuckles, even the pretty, decorative, keychain kind. Those are a hard no. They are considered a weapon, and they will be confiscated, and the authorities will be notified. I have seen people try to argue that their self-defense keychain is just a cat-shaped piece of metal. The officer doesn't care. If it fits around your knuckles, it's a problem. Now, let's talk about the airport secrets. The things the airlines aren't telling you. The things that happen behind the scenes that directly affect your experience at the checkpoint. This is where we get into the real insider knowledge. Airport secret number 1. The TSA isn't just looking for weapons. Most people think the TSA's only job is to find guns and knives. That is the visible part of the iceberg. The vast majority of their work is behavioral detection and looking for suspicious indicators. The officers are trained to watch for micro-expressions, nervous tics, and deceptive behavior. They are looking at how you handle your documents, how you move through the line, and how you interact with the people you are traveling with. This is why it's so important to just be calm. The person who is constantly looking over their shoulder, who can't stand still, who is sweating profusely on a cold day, that person is going to draw attention. It doesn't mean you are a terrorist. It just means you are acting like one, statistically speaking. And that attention leads to a secondary screening, a pat-down, and a thorough search of your bags. So the secret is, don't act weird. Just be bored like everyone else. Airport secret number 2, the TSA-approved lock myth. You see them in every travel store, little luggage locks with the TSA logo on them. The idea is that only you and the TSA have the master keys to open them. Here's the secret the luggage companies don't advertise. Those locks are not secure. The master keys that open them are widely known in security circles, and the locks can be opened with a simple ballpoint pen in about 2 seconds. They are not there to protect you from theft. They are there to prevent the TSA from having to cut your lock if they need to inspect your bag. That's it. They are a convenience for the TSA, not a security device for you. If you want to actually secure your bag, you need a non-TSA lock, and you need to keep that bag with you at all times. If you check a bag, assume that anyone with a few dollars and an internet connection can open your TSA-approved lock. Airport secret number 3, the real reason for the shoe rule. We all know the story. The shoe bomber tried to detonate explosives in his shoes, so now we all have to take them off. But the real secret is that the technology used to screen shoes is actually quite limited. The X-ray machines have a hard time penetrating the dense rubber and composite materials of a shoe sole. It's difficult for an officer to tell the difference between a normal sole and one that has been packed with a sheet explosive. By making you take them off and put them in a bin, they get a clear, unobstructed image. But the real innovation that has changed this rule is the CT scanner. You might have seen these new, bigger machines at some airports. They look like something out of a sci-fi movie, and you put your bag inside a curved dome. These are computed tomography scanners. They create a 3D image of your bag and can rotate it and slice it virtually. These machines are so advanced that they can often see through the clutter of a shoe and determine its composition. If your airport has one of these, you might be allowed to keep your shoes on. But the vast majority of airports still use the older technology. The secret is, if you want to keep your shoes on, fly out of a major hub that is invested in the new tech. Airport secret number 4, the bin juice is dangerous. This sounds like a joke, but it's a serious health warning. The plastic bins at the security checkpoint are rarely, if ever, cleaned. Think about what goes in those bins. Shoes that have walked through city streets, possibly through puddles of unknown liquid. Bags that have been on airport floors, jackets, bare feet, and sometimes, if you are unlucky, a leaky bottle of shampoo. That bin is a petri dish of bacteria, including E. coli and influenza. The secret the airlines aren't telling you? Wash your hands immediately after you clear security. Use hand sanitizer. Do not touch your face after handling that bin. Better yet, put your items in the bin, push it forward, and then immediately use hand sanitizer. That bin juice is real and it will make you sick. Airport secret number 5. The behavior of the officers is calculated. Have you ever noticed that some TSA officers are incredibly friendly and others seem to have a permanent scowl? That isn't always random. The screening process relies on unpredictability. If every officer behaved the same way, it would be easier for someone with bad intentions to predict the screening process and find a weakness. By having a mix of personalities and procedures, they keep people off balance. Also, the officers are trained to engage you in conversation. They might ask you where you are going or how long you will be there. They aren't just being nosy. They are listening to your answers to see if they match your body language and your ticket. It's another layer of behavioral detection. Airport secret number 6. Your boarding pass tells them everything. When you hand over your boarding pass and ID either to an agent or at the automated machine, that scan pulls up a massive amount of data. It tells them if you are a pre-check member, but it also tells them your travel history, if you are on any watch lists, even if you don't know it, and it assigns you a risk score. This score, based on your booking method, last minute, one-way, cash payment, etc., determines which lane you are directed to and what level of scrutiny you will receive. If your booking looks suspicious, you might get flagged for SSS or secondary security screening selection, which means you get the full pat-down and explosive trace detection. Airport secret number 7, the recycled water bottle trap. We have all done it. You forget your water bottle, you get through security, and you buy a ridiculously overpriced bottle of water at the newsstand. But here's a secret the airport vendors don't want you to know. Some airports have water bottle filling stations that are notoriously unsanitary. The filters aren't changed as often as they should be. The better secret is to bring an empty, collapsible water bottle through security and then fill it at a fountain, or even better, ask any restaurant or bar inside the terminal to fill it for you. They almost always will, for free. Airport secret number 8. The airlines want you to check bags, but not for the reason you think. We all know checked bag fees are a huge revenue stream for airlines, but the deeper secret is about weight and balance and fuel efficiency. An airline would much rather have all your heavy items in the cargo hold, where they can be carefully distributed for optimal weight and balance, than scattered throughout the cabin in overhead bins. Passengers rushing to board, fighting for bin space, and then taking forever to sit down, delays the flight. The airline's ideal passenger checks a bag, boards quickly with just a small personal item, and sits down. That's why they are constantly trying to incentivize or even force you to check your bag at the gate. They aren't doing you a favor. They are doing themselves one. Airport secret number 9. The banned items. Amnesty boxes are a trap. You know those boxes you see right as you enter the security line, filled with lighters, multi-tools, and water bottles? They are meant for people who accidentally brought a prohibited item. The secret is, if you put your expensive Swiss Army knife in that box, it is gone forever. There is no lost and found for that box. It is collected and destroyed or thrown away. But here is the insider tip. If you realize you have a prohibited item before you get to the checkpoint, you are allowed to go back to the ticket counter and check your bag. Or you can find a mailing kiosk. Some airports have them specifically for this purpose. You can mail your prohibited item to your home or your destination for a fee. It costs money, but it's cheaper than buying a new $100 knife. Airport secret number 10, the expert traveler scam. You will see people in the security line who think they are experts. They will have their quart-sized bag perfectly packed, their laptop out, their shoes off, and they will be scoffing at the amateurs who are holding up the line. Here is the secret. They are often wrong. The rules change. The TSA regularly updates its prohibited items list. Something that was allowed last year might be forbidden this year. For example, for a while there was confusion about gel shoe inserts. The expert who thinks they know everything is often the one who gets stopped because they didn't check the current rules. The real expert is the one who checks the TSA website or app before they leave for the airport, just in case. Airport secret number 11. The ID check is also a document check. When the officer scans your ID, they aren't just verifying your name matches your boarding pass. They are checking to see if your ID is fake. They are trained to spot forgeries. They look at the holograms, the micro-printing, and the material of the card. If they have even a slight suspicion that your ID isn't real, they will pull you aside for additional questioning. This is becoming increasingly common with the rise of high-quality fake IDs. So, if you are traveling with a learner's permit or an older ID that is a bit worn out, be prepared for it to get a second look. Airport secret number 12. The real reason for the 311 rule is still in effect. We touched on this, but the secret the government doesn't broadcast is that the intelligence community believes the liquid threat is still very real. There is a reason the rule hasn't been relaxed in nearly 2 decades. Despite massive advancements in screening technology, they have the technology to test a liquid's chemical composition without opening it now, but it's slow. It's not practical to test every water bottle for every passenger. So the rule remains the most effective deterrent. It limits the amount of any potential threat agent to a volume that is considered non-catastrophic. The secret is, we are likely stuck with this rule for the foreseeable future, no matter how many fancy new scanners they install. So, where does all of this leave us? It leaves us with the understanding that the security checkpoint is a living, breathing system that is constantly adapting. It is based on a combination of technology, human observation, and a set of rules that are designed to be as clear as possible while covering an infinite number of weird situations. The key takeaway from all of this should be a sense of empowerment. When you understand why the rules exist, and when you know the little secrets that the airlines and the airports don't openly discuss, you stop being a passive participant in the process and you become an active, informed traveler. You know the feeling now. You know that your peanut butter is fine on a sandwich, but not in a jar. You know that your power bank belongs in your carry-on, not your checked luggage. You know that the person giving you a hard time about your bag is just doing a job, and that the rules are the rules, not because someone wants to ruin your day, but because somewhere, sometime, someone tried to exploit that loophole. And you know that the most important tool you have is your own awareness. Pay attention to the signs, listen to the officer's instructions, and for goodness sake, check your pockets before you leave the house. I hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective on the whole process. The next time you are standing in that line, shuffling forward in your socks, you can smile a little bit because you are in on the secrets. You know what's really going on. And more importantly, you know how to navigate it without becoming a statistic, without holding up the line, and without having to surrender your favorite souvenir to the amnesty box. Now I am dying to hear your stories. Remember that question I asked at the very beginning? What is the strangest thing you have ever seen someone try to bring through, or what rule drives you absolutely crazy? I want to hear about the time someone tried to bring a live lobster, or the time you saw someone argue for 20 minutes about a tube of toothpaste. Drop those stories in the comments. Let's get a conversation going. Your story might just be the cautionary tale that saves someone else from a headache the next time they fly. Safe travels, and I will talk to you in the comments.